Greetings, this is your host Lavinia Lassani, and in today's video we are going to be diving into chapter 12 of the novel Snowblind by author Cassie Miles. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee or hot cocoa and join me. Welcome back. So first of all, I want to apologize for not posting this current chapter last week. I just wasn't feeling myself, but I do hope you guys are feeling good today. So let's get right into chapter 12. As I've mentioned in my last video, the next possible action that would be best for either situation would be for either Sasha going to Brady's place or Brady staying with Sasha at the hotel, given that the man in black was creeping into Sasha's hotel and broke into her apartment and actually didn't steal anything, meaning that he was here to kill her. So that would be the next very likely plot. And as we see here in chapter 12, at the very beginning, Brady had insisted that Sasha pack her suitcase and leave the condo. But his idea was that Sasha should come and live with him at the ranch while they were doing the investigation. And apparently it didn't take much to convince Sasha because of the whole Man in Black going into her condo, which scared her to death. And even though it wasn't the most appropriate situation, it was the most secure because he would be there bodyguarding her while still solving the case. The funny part here, actually not funny, but like most interesting that got me smiling, was the sentence, "Maybe you should spend the night with me at my cabin." A warm flush crawled up his throat, and he was glad that the afternoon sunlight had faded to dusk. He didn't want her to see him turning red. "I have an extra room, or bedroom." Those little small details and shy moments are the ones that actually makes me want to continue reading the book, because it gives emotion to the character and it tells me more about him and his attitude or just how he acts around people, and just something I'm into, I guess. While they were talking about Sasha moving in with him and how the situation might work, Brady thought to himself that yes, people will talk like they always do, but he did not mind the finger pointing and wagging tongue, which is a very good attitude to go by, if you ask me. And at the same time, he asked her if her boss will approve, because in his mind he already said that her boss, would not approve of her moving to another condo. Sasha went on by saying that yes, his boss is not happy with her and that she will be lucky to still have her job by the end of the investigation. Brady, being from a small town, he was like, "Why? You're just helping with the investigation. You're doing something right, so why would you get fired?" But at the same time, the people he was investigating was part of Sasha's firm, and by investigating them, by creating problems, she was not really doing her job, so I get the problem she's in. So let's see what happens with the next page. Oh, and Sasha also points out that It was indeed a big mistake from her part to be picking up the pair of binoculars and look through somebody else's window. Not only does it breach privacy of another person, but at the same time it was that action that caused this whole problem. And Sasha continued by saying that even if she had not witnessed the murders, they would have had found the body today, which is the day where they went to the snow place by the ranch, and they found the body on a steam trucker. So it was that day that they were going to find the body either way. And Brady continued by saying that maybe or maybe not, because with Sasha witnessing the murder, the killer might have precipitated his plan to get rid of the body. Maybe he was going to find another more secure place to hide the body, but because Sasha had witnessed the murder and Brady and her was already doing the investigation, questioning people at the hotel, that might have given the murderer a scare and just made him act quickly by hiding the body in a steam truck and throwing the body by a mountainous path that he thought nobody go through. So there's that possibility. Putting himself in the killer's shoe, Brady figured the murder had gone according to the murderer's plan. He had stabbed the girl and put her in a steamer trunk without leaving any trace of blood in the hotel room, plus put everything that they used, the plates and everything, in the steamer trunk, and just wheeled out of the hotel into the parking lot. And with him, the killer, being in a hotel carrying a suitcase, it wasn't a big deal because that's a hotel, that's what you do, you carry a suitcase. So the plan had gone accordingly, except half an hour later, Brady and Sasha came by questioning everyone, and that in itself must have genuinely shocked the killer. The perfect crime was not the perfect crime anymore. If we ever catch this guy, Brady said, it will be because you happened to be looking in the right place at the wrong time. Sasha reached across the console and touched his arm. That makes me feel better. I bet it does. Her touch reminded him of the other reason he wanted her to stay at his cabin tonight. He needed another kiss. Oof. Somebody needs another kiss. Let's see if he can have it. To be honest, he craved more than kissing. He wanted Sasha in his bed. Oh, now it's getting hot. Every moment he spent with her heightened that longing. He had memorized the shape of her face and the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. Her ears were tuned to the warm cadence of her voice and her light, rippling laughter. He wanted to hold her close and inhale the peachy scent of her shampoo. No matter how inappropriate, he wanted her. It was taking full-on exertion of willpower to hold himself in check. Well, I think we know what's going to happen either in this chapter or next chapter. Because we know that Sasha wants him too, and now he just said that he wants her. So it's not gonna be taking much. Especially since we're already like halfway through. So there's that. Swallowing hard, he said, "What do you say, my cabin?" Sasha is like, "I won't stay at my condo." Which didn't give Brady an answer, but hey. Sasha continued by saying that I should get a room in a hotel, not at his place. And even though she didn't sound happy about it, it was a reasonable choice. If Jacobson has all the surveillance in place, it ought to be safe. See, it's a reasonable choice because it's still a safe place, even though it's not Brady's house. Rejected, but he didn't take it personally, and agreed to arrange a room at the hotel for her. Ooh, I guess he's gonna have to work harder in taming that need that is described earlier. I'd rather be with you. It's like rejected him was not enough, so he's like, I'm rejecting you, but I'd rather be with you, but you're still rejected for now. Way to make him chase her. And Brady knew that. A couple of times during the day, he had noticed Sasha looking at him with a sultry heat in her eyes. Not giving up, Brady was like, my offer still stands. But Sasha was adamant on staying professional and to concentrate on her job, as well as letting Brady concentrate on his job. And we can be glad that Brady said that he did indeed understand, and reminded Sasha that she doesn't have to worry about the cost of the hotel, since the sheriff department could spring for a room to protect a witness. Though he didn't ask the sheriff, and we already know how the sheriff is. He's a bit picky and kind of rude, so does the sheriff department really have the means? Especially since it's a small town sheriff office. When they arrive at the Gateway Hotel, he spotted the sheriff SUV outside the hotel, and figured that the sheriff, McKinley, was already probably here questioning Reinhardt. If you remember from the previous chapter, the dead body is Reinhardt's ex-wife, and Reinhardt's current girlfriend is a cousin of the ex-wife. So just a quick recap for you. Groaning, Sasha was like, oh, that's not gonna go well, because Reinhardt was an alpha on his own, and McKinney, even though he pretends he's an alpha, is he really? Because from Sasha's recount from previous chapter, she suggested that he might not really be, and he just outbursts his anger, and that was not gonna go well with Reinhardt. And explained that it's because since Andrea, the Reinhardt's current girlfriend, just lost her cousin, it would be good for her to talk to another woman. And at the same time, I'm thinking at the back of his head, he's like, probably if they get new information from her, it will be useful for the case. And Sasha explained that it's a confidentiality issue, like one can arise, and because she's not a lawyer, but the firm that she represents work for Reinhardt and the other investors, she will have to tell Damian everything. She will have to tell Damian everything first if she tells her something in private that could be useful for the case. Mr. Intelligent here was like, not a problem. You're not gonna be alone with her. Hitch, wise man. If whatever she tells you in private can be used against you, why not just, you're not gonna be alone with that chick. Brady clarified by saying that Since they don't know who hired the ninja, the killer, or whoever broke into her house, she's not to be alone with anyone from the investors group or any of the partners, because all of them ought to be suspect, and even Cathy Cook, which Sasha was like, what? But she could have always hired a killer to do her job. We don't know if it was what her motive is, but can't let any of them go. Oh, apparently there might be a motive. Brady suggested that since they were all in real estate, it might have very well been something about real estate. And since Cathy Cook was dancing with two male skaters who were wearing black, one of them could have been the ninja or killer or whatever. He wouldn't have been surprised by anything. This investigation has taken more twists and turns than the road over Vale Pass. Just leaving this for you because when I read it, kind of cracked a bit. When Sasha and Brady entered Reinhardt's suite, they noticed that the air in the room itself was so freaking heavy, and the other deputies that were standing in the middle of the room were holding their hats by the brim and looking confused, as if they didn't know if they should arrest Reinhardt or just apologize to him for disturbing him. Pacing back and forth, Reinhardt was really easy to read. He was outraged with a freaking capital O. And as soon as he saw Sasha in the room, he stopped and jabbed her finger in front of her and said that she could clear this situation. And mentioned that Sasha works for his lawyer, and his lawyer said that he should not say a word to the cop until he gets there. And even though Sasha was not accustomed to having her opinion asked, she had an inkling about the simple legal parameters, and she saw a chance to rise to the occasion. As such, she inhaled a deep breath and spoke clearly. Mr. Reinhardt is correct. He's not required to talk to the police without his lawyer present. The sheriff asked when the lawyer's coming, which Sasha responded by saying that tomorrow, because that's when she hoped Damian will reach Arcadia. Almost whining and his mustache dropping dejectedly, McKinney asked Sasha, what about her? She's present. Why is Reinhardt not able to talk since she's here? And Sasha counter-argued with the fact that she's not a lawyer, she's just an assistant. Reinhardt pointed out that they are wasting his time, and even though he didn't do anything wrong and the body was actually his ex-wife, he was hurt. And even though he divorced her, he still cared. And Andrea rose up from the chair she was curled up on with a white button whiskey glass cradled in both hands. She's like, shut up, Lloyd, you are over her. But I didn't hate her. And Reinhardt counter-argued. Bubbling to her feet, Andrea agreed, because she pointed out that he couldn't have hated her because he was sending her a good amount of alimony every time and had a good settlement paid for her. And even though Andrea loved her cousin, she mentioned that she was a wild woman because she kept spending money like crazy and didn't actually listen to anybody. At the same time, she mentioned that Lauren was posed as a bad woman in the divorce. Noticing that Andrea was on the verge of crash, Sasha got closer to her and caught a very strong whiff of alcohol. Sasha apologized for her loss and asked Andrea if she could contact someone for her. Being the nice person and all. My mom, a tear skidded down Andrea's tainted lips. No, tainted cheeks. Tainted cheeks. I don't even know why I said lips. Andrea clarified that since Lauren's parents are dead, it was her mom that took care of all the family business, and that she would be hopping on the next plane over from Texas and be here for her as quick as she possibly could. After Sasha offered Andrea that phone call in the bedroom, we can see that Andrea is basically breaking. Plunking back into her chair after she basically went on a rampage about how Lauren will want open casket, how they're gonna have to have a funeral, how asking how Lauren was looking, and then going right afterwards saying, no, actually don't tell me, I don't want to know how she was looking. Andrea was like, oh, I'm gonna need more alcohol for this shit. And Sasha didn't argue. She took Andrea's glass and went across the room where the bar was to fill her glass with amber whiskey. While she was walking there, she noticed all of the men's uneasiness at having to deal with a historical woman. But for Sasha, this wasn't such an emotional stretch for her, since she came from a big family and there was always someone in crisis there. As such, Sasha was like, I'm gonna be taking charge. But she didn't actually say it, but in her mind she's like, I've got no choice but to take charge. Yeah. Then she had an idea that about how they could be handling the legal situation. She mentioned that she could contact Damien on the computer and that he could possibly take part in talking with Mr. Reinhardt. And Reinhardt agreed. Especially since he was getting really annoyed with all the cops questioning him and then his girlfriend crying over there. After delivering her drink to Andrea, her plan actually seemed to have worked, with the computerized version of Damien sitting on the table. Reinhardt and the detectives, the deputies and the sheriff sat around the table to have a conversation, if you would say that, and Damien was there overseeing everything. But now it was time for Sasha to make the call in behalf of Andrea, or actually have Andrea make the call and her being there. And since she couldn't be alone, and Andrea was all crashing and crying and saying how her cousin Lauren didn't deserve to die, even though she'd done some pretty stupid thing, she didn't deserve to die. Sasha signaled for Brady to join her in an excuse to help her, since she couldn't be alone with her, with what's her name? Andrea. As soon as they guided Andrea back in the bedroom, she plopped herself onto her bed and just sobbed. Sitting beside her, Sasha patted her back and murmured gentle reassurance. So she's getting good at it, I guess. But when Brady started to leave, Sasha waved at him and mouthed, "You have to stay." Brady shook his head and silently said, "No." He doesn't want to deal with a crying woman. But Sasha couldn't let him go. Because of the whole confidentiality issue, she could not be alone with Andrea. So she just mouthed, "Please, please, please." Scowling, Brady leaned his back against the wall and folded his arm across his chest, just standing there. When Andrea finally stopped sobbing so much, Sasha mentioned to her that Brady is going to stay with them, and if that's okay. But Andrea, being all emotional and everything, was like, whatever, I don't care, and went on to say that Brady is okay. I've heard about him. Sasha guessed it was from Jim Birch. I'm sure. I'm thinking Jim Birch. I'm not really good with his name, so my guess is Jim Birch was Uncle Judy. No, it doesn't make sense. Let me see. Who in the world was Jim Birch? Oh, the owner of the Dude Ranch near Arcadia, who is planning to set his operation to Moreno. That was Jim Birch. Not making it obvious, Sasha gently questioned Andrea, asking her how long she's known Jim Birch. But if you remember from the previous chapter, she had an inkling, because I believe Jim Birch already told her the amount of years they've been working together. And Andrea confirmed that she's been working with Jim Birch for a couple of years. But she met him when she came here with she came to Arcadia with Lloyd while they were checking on the development on Arcadia Hotel. Through that conversation, we find out that Lauren and Lloyd were divorced for 5 years already, and that Lauren was actually working with her cousin Andrea when they first started talking to Jim Birch about selling his property, and that Lauren had tried to steal the listing away from her. While they were talking, Sasha couldn't get over the similarities between Andrea and her cousin Lauren. The hair, the sense of style, they were pretty much like twins, even though they were cousins. And she questioned Andrea, asking if Mr. Reinhardt and her were in a serious relationship. And Andrea said that no, they were just dating, and that Reinhardt was a little too old for her, but she liked powerful men, and that she's been attracted to Lloyd for a long time, even when he was married to her cousin Lauren. Wiping her swollen eyes, Andrea asked Brady to go ahead and bring him an aspirin from her bathroom, which he gladly agreed. And even though he was gone from that part of the room to the bathroom, he stayed within earshot, which Sasha was totally for, because she didn't want to be alone with the woman. Besides, Sasha figured that she was going to get more information out of Andrea than the detective or the sheriff was going to get out of Reinhardt. While Brady was in the bathroom getting the aspirin, Andrea pointed out that even though she liked or actually was attracted to Lloyd while he was still married, she didn't make a move. She didn't make a move on him because that's just not how she rolled, which Sasha agreed to, saying that dating married men are never a good idea. Not like you and Damien, Andrea said. Wasn't he voted one of the Denver's most eligible bachelor? Not my type. Sasha didn't want to go through this song and dance again. We aren't dating. But you were going to be together at the corporate condo. I'm moving to the hotel tonight. This is funny. Just imagine, Brady is on the other side listening to them talking and just getting a glimpse of the whole rumor about Damien and Sasha being a thing. That must have shocked and hurt him. But at the same time, when Sasha said that Damien was not my type, I'm not sure if Brady could hear the sincerity in it, or if he could hear that she was lying. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but perhaps in the next few pages we will know. I'm not sure. But as Brady came by with 3 aspirin and gave it to Andrea looked from Brady to Sasha and back to Sasha again and said that, "Poor Damien, I think he found something more interesting in the local scenery." Glancing over at Brady, Sasha was anxious to shift the topic back towards the investigation. No, duh. Now you're stuck between like 2 men, and then like you have someone questioning you about the other man in front of the man that you want, which it's a very delicate situation to be in. Sasha turned the conversation back to Andrea, asking her to tell her more about Lloyd and her relationship. Andrea recounted that Lloyd and her started spending more time together about 3 months ago after Lauren had pulled a fast one on her by trying to steal her listing, which is Jim Birch's place. Lauren had found a perfect buyer for the ranch, the Dude Ranch, and she had taken the prospective buyer for showing without telling her, which started the bidding war between these two, and she used her contact, which was Sam Moreno, to basically trying to win. This new detail gave Sasha and Brady a new perspective, given Sam Moreno never spoke of his intention to buy the Dude Ranch, and up until the meeting they had that day, like in the morning, he didn't even mention about his plan to build an ashram. And that secret that Sam Moreno kept was a very interesting detail. Who knows, maybe Sam Moreno had someone killed Lauren because he wanted that place for his ashram, from which he would be making so much more money. Here we find that Reinhard had the most to lose from Sam Moreno breaking away from the group to set up his own development, as he was the one the business partners had agreed would supervise all new construction. Was it pure coincidence that he'd started dating Andrea at that time? Was he using her? Those are the questions to ask. It wouldn't surprise me if he was using her. And then the fact that that she looked a lot like the ex-wife didn't even like bother him, or actually was a plus for him. Who knows? We can't know the psyche of Reinhard right now. As Sasha was leaving to give Andrea space so that she could call her mom and deliver the news, Andrea stopped Sasha by the bedroom door and told her that there's a little something she and Brady might find very interesting, which was that in the bidding war with Sam Moreno, the other person was Vigil P. Westfield. Remember the dead guy, the one who fell from the stair, and the one whose state Damian was looking after. That's why he couldn't come to Arcadia any sooner. That dude. So now we have Lauren dead, and then we have Westfield dead, both of which were working together against Sam Moreno and Andrea. And possibly Reinhardt. So now we have a very strong motive. And with San Moreno's little disciple, he could have very well brainwashed them and have each of them play a part in whatever he was doing or whatever he's planning to do. That information was a bombshell because Sasha knew that a lot of the investors had ties with Westfield. But she had actually suspected they were actually doing business with him. However, given that when they were on the ice rink, they were all questioning her about Westfield, that should have given her a better idea that they were actually hand in hand together, but we never know. Rich people hanging with rich people, right? And as useful as this information was, Sasha managed to catch a glimpse of awareness in the supposedly grief-stricken Andrea, because she knew how important that small bit of information was. And apparently, Andrea wasn't above of doing a bit of scheming on her own. Now, what is Andrea planning? What's her end game? You don't know? Do you have any idea what's Andrea's end game from all that I've read so far? Comment down below and let me know. And how about Reinhardt? What do you think is Reinhardt's plan here? Do you guys think he's a suspect? Because right now my main the one person that's on top of my suspect list right now is going to be Sam Moreno. Then second is going to be Reinhardt. And third is probably going to be Andrea. I'm thinking Reinhardt and Andrea are together. Or actually Sam Moreno and Andrea together. I'm not really sure, but what do you think? Let me know in the comment below. And I will just check on it later on. But until next time, I want to thank you so much for watching so far. And if you've liked the video, please do press that like button, turn on that bell notification, and subscribe. Big kisses.